Welcome along to the inaugural episode of JustCoz, the podcast of the JustLove Collective. First official episode. I think that needs some explanation, but it's boring explanation, so let's not spend too much time on it. My name is Nathan Brown, and my co-host is Dr. Dilys Brooks. Welcome along, Dr. Brooks.
Why, thank you, Nathan. We can go with Dilys, and I'm super excited that we are recording our inaugural episode. And in this episode, we get to tell the story of Just Love. And yeah, should we welcome the folks who are joining us today?
I think we should. And we have a cast of fractions of 1,000. The original, the infamous
Yes.
Chris Blake is here as a part of it, and he needs to say something just so we can recognize his voice.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am an original and infamous at the same time. And I'm thrilled to be here with you.
The OG of JustLove Collective.
Yes.
And someone that, the technology side of it is just one of the joys of this working interaction. And Jen Silva, you're here as well. You need to say hi.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
And we're going to find out more about these people as we go along, so let's not get bogged down in the details. And Sam Gungaloo.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. This is going to be a journey.
What title should we have given to you?
Me?
Yeah. Doctor, Reverend.
One time I went into a English pub and I was titled, "Oh, that's the priest."
Ah,
Wow.
okay.
Oh.
Cool.
Okay, then.
Indeed. Cool. So we are exploring what the Just Love Collective is, where it comes from, who some of the key people are, and some of the key people are exactly in this discussion right now. And of course, it's a network that extends far beyond this group of people, but we can't fit everybody in the first episode of the podcast, and we'll be meeting more of the people that are part of the Just Love Collective and friends and associates and supporters across this series and I guess across this podcast. So one step at a time. Dilys, what are we doing today?
So today we have invited our guests, and Nathan, I don't know how this works because technically we're part of this team too, right? So we're moderating, hosting, and guest appearing. I don't know, but
we're not neutral umpires. We're
there you go.
We're invested.
We are invested, and so the first thing we want to make clear for our listeners is what exactly is the Just Love Collective?
Yeah, and we need to answer this question because I struggle to sometimes explain it to people, but I think some of the great wordsmiths and communicators that are a part of this discussion have probably got that practiced elevator pitch. So, Chris, you particularly have been involved in fundraising and networking and connecting on this for a while now. What's your elevator pitch?
Yes, Chris, tell us the right answer.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes, I generally try to stay clear of elevators if I can take the stairs. And
Wow.
if I am stuck, I think I would say this about Just Love Collective, and have said this too, even outside of elevators. Just Love Collective is a worldwide movement of followers of Jesus who sincerely and actively follow Jesus and want to continue following Jesus. And part of this following involves embodying justice where we can, and of course, love. So that's it. I'm going to put a full stop on that, my part of it. Okay.
Ding! That's the elevator doors opening. We go our separate ways, and I'm still trying to work it out. So,
Yeah.
Sam, Jen, what can you add to this?
Go for it, Jen.
Yeah, no, definitely. When I first heard of Just Love, I thought it was a collective group of people that are just wanting to do good in this world with humanity, spread love, justice, and in whatever way possible. And so, if that was my elevator speech, I would just encourage someone, if they want to be a part of that work, if they are about love and justice and equity and finding solutions to just bring that to the world, then this is the collective for you.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
Oh, sign me up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, how do you explain it to your church members?
That's if I would. Let me start by saying what I think Just Love Collective isn't. I don't think that we are a coup against the Adventist religious institution.
No.
Let me start there.
Right.
I do think that we are a group of people who come together who recognize some very distinct gaps in the way that we do faith. And we just want to go back to highlighting how we can bring out some of those gaps, which happen to be the core essence of the kingdom of God, justice and love.
Sam, I was waiting for you to use 4 words. You know
Help
what
me out,
those
Chris.
4 words are, Sam?
Help me out, Chris.
Yes.
Go for it.
Those 4 words are uniting hearts, inspiring action.
Yep.
Because I have been the United Hearts police on the Just Love team. When everyone wants to quote the wrong tagline, I'm just like, that's not the tagline.
Yes, here we are.
But for the record, it's United Hearts, inspiring action.
That's it.
Yep. That's it right there.
How about you, Dilys and Nathan?
You know, when I talk about Just Love Collective, I simply say it's a group of people who are committed to seeing justice enacted in the world. And we're doing it in the name of Jesus, following in the footsteps of Jesus, and doing the things that Jesus did.
Well, I don't have much to add, so I'll just say that whenever I talk about Just Love Collective, I deny any responsibility or knowledge of what's going on. I just wear the T-shirt.
Yes.
And I think the T-shirt says something like "Action creates hope."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that another tagline?
Yes. It's a sub motto.
To Sam's chagrin. To Sam's chagrin.
Just breathe in. Just breathe in.
Indeed. Okay, so none of us come to this without baggage. Sam's mentioned a little bit of that, about how we do feel that there are gaps in, and we on this call and most of the people that are involved with it come from the Adventist faith tradition and community, and many of the people who are part of our organising team actually have a day job working somewhere within the Seventh-day Adventist organisation. There are a couple of retirees, but then they are people that have spent most of their life working in that place. So we certainly come from that place at the moment. It doesn't mean that it's only for people from that place, but it is where we come from. But each of the people on this call have, before Just Love Collective, have been involved in these ideas, issues, actions for many places and many, many different ways. So can we have the sort of brief bio of each of us in the context of our engagement with justice and love in the wider world?
So I'm a convert to Christianity when I was 24, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, and I was already involved with justice work before I was a Christian, before I was a follower of Jesus, before I fell in love with God. And so it seems like it was a sort of logical extension for me. And then a deepening, broadening extension as I got to see love in action through the community of believers in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I've been involved with. Okay, I'll mention a few things. When I was at Lincoln, Nebraska, teaching at Union College, as a professor there, I was involved with something called the Lincoln Interfaith Peacemaking Coalition, and ended up being the chair of that. And we just had a wonderful time working out love in action and justice on a lot of levels, enabling people to stand up for the vulnerable wherever we could. Worked on something called Adventist Church Welcoming Statements, which is welcoming everyone into the Adventist Church and not being apologetic about it. At Union, I also helped to put together what's called the Peace Week. We did that annually, and there's a peace sculpture garden there, which lays out some of the principles that Jesus lays out for justice and love, and which JustLove Collective is embodying right even today. There are a couple of things I've been involved with fairly recently, and then I'll be quiet. And that is standing up for our friends, standing up with our friends too in the rainbow community. And so I was able to moderate a film called Enough Room at the Table, and also develop and present a workshop called A Sanctuary for Conversation, which was aiming to enable places in our churches and in institutions to listen to, and again stand up for people who are in the rainbow community. I've started to call this community rainbow community because I'm running out of letters, and it just seems to me that it's still fitting, and there's a warmth and there's promise and hope in that characterization. So there you go. There's an opening.
Dilys, what's your background on some of these things?
I think when I look back over my life, Nathan, as an Afro-Caribbean American person, I think the first time I was aware of injustice was when I was in high school. I went to Catholic high school, and we used to go out with Father Williams was his name, and he invited us to go to this place called the Eventide Home. And the Eventide Home, like when I think about it now, was a set of rooms in a house behind the bus station across the street from the movie theater in what we would call Crossroads in Kingston. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ever saw a child with Down syndrome. That was the first time I ever saw someone who was a paraplegic. That was the first time I ever saw just someone aging and just navigating, those kinds of vagaries, right? Like things that happen to the body. I was about 12 years old. And I remember my heart was just overwhelmed that I was standing on the other side of this house. Like literally, I would wait for the bus, and here were people who were just forgotten, just not known. And we would go there. I went the entire 5 years I was in high school. We would go there at least once a month. At Christmas time, we would go and make paper chains, and we would sing songs. And I'm so deeply thankful that we had an opportunity to go and see. And then I learned that some of those people who were there had been abandoned by their families, and Jamaica didn't have a system to really support people living with disabilities, And I think that stirred something in my heart that has continued to shape my life to want to take care of the folks who don't have voices. And I don't know, if any of our callers are Enneagram folks, but I'm an Enneagram 1. So I am your poster child for advocacy and changing the world. Yesterday, all by herself, dragging everybody, kicking and screaming if necessary. Like, we're going to do the thing. So now I have words.
We've noticed.
But,
Here.
I have words for it now, but it's just been a part of my life. And as someone who also was marginalized, right? I remembered, I went to the high school that my father taught, and that meant I was treated differently because not everybody liked my dad. He was a math teacher, and he was a so-and-so. Like, he was good at what he did, but he did not mince his words at all when he would call out his students. And so I learned to navigate that space of being his daughter, right? So having personally experienced marginalization, growing up with colorism, classism, and so having experienced that in my own body, and then moving to the States to go to college, and and where my adult years were shaped, and just being aware again of what it meant to be on the margins, and also recognizing that I had privilege, right? Because though I came from the Caribbean, which is considered part of the developing world, I'm an educated person from the Caribbean, right? I am, in my mother's family, the fourth daughter born outside of enslavement, and I am the one that has finished a PhD. I am the one that has multiple degrees. And so I have privilege, right? Because I knew how to read and write. And so advocacy work for me and justice work has always been wrapped up in giving people access, making sure they can learn and that they can know. Because if you learn, then you can make different decisions. And so that has led me into chaplaincy. And as a chaplain, I get to speak for people who don't get to speak. That's one of our modes of care, is to speak up for those who don't have voices. I have a particular passion for, people who experience human trafficking. Chris, you didn't even touch on that because that's part of your wheelhouse too, because you did all the things as the OG. But human trafficking is something that I'm interested in and speak up for. People navigating and surviving sexual trauma is something that I'm a huge advocate for. That's what my research interests are in. And definitely supporting our siblings in the rainbow community and being able to speak up. And currently, my advocacy work is around neurospicy people, neurodiverse people, right? Like, really saying, hey, everybody, we're all not typical. And so advocacy and justice work for me, it's what I get to do for a living, to be able to speak up and to do it in the name of the biggest advocate and justice person on the planet, Yeshua, Jesus, that guy.
Amen.
There's the sermon.
And that brings us to the end of the podcast.
No.
That's it. No, Sam, you need to tell us your story now.
It's so strange because I was brainstorming about my exposure to the work of justice. All the stuff I wrote down isn't what has come into mind right now as Dilys was talking, because I went back in the time machine. I realized to myself that the work of justice started a lot earlier than I thought it did. I'm an immigrant, a child of an immigrant to the United Kingdom from a small dot in the Indian Ocean called Mauritius, and integrating in that society. I resonate with what Dilys was talking about, where I didn't know at the time I was being exposed to classism, and that pretty much became quite a dominant theme in my life as I recognized there were many spaces I just wasn't invited to the table. It's only later on in reflection I realized, oh shoot, yeah, I wasn't allowed there, and now that's doing a number on me as I'm working through different things. But I realized that it pushed me into spaces where I thrived, or at least was thrilled by the opportunity to give voice to the voiceless. One of the most transforming moments for me, which I completely forgot about until we got onto this podcast, is we were commissioned. I was a youth leader working, just working in my local church, and we were commissioned in South London to come up with some kind of evangelistic thing. We were given a bunch of money and said, and the mandate was, we want to create a crowd and bring people to Jesus. And everyone did the bog standard evangelistic series. For some crazy reason, we came up with a London-wide anti-gun crime rally.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole team somehow, and it got approved as well, which is amazing.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And I still remember to this day on that Sabbath where we marched with over 5,000 people, who knows who they were, who heard of this anti-gun crime rally. We invited an organization down called Mothers Against Guns, who came and told their stories of how they lost their children to gun crime and knife crime. We hosted a London amnesty where we made an agreement with the Metropolitan Police where people could come and hand in their firearms and walk away. It was, I completely forgot that I was even involved in that. And I remember at the time, it's not like I wasn't excited about the age-old Adventist things, the church, the AYSs, the programmings, but there was a fire that just really just brewed when I was doing that stuff that I now recognize. That's just the preamble. Yeah. Like that's just the preamble. Like later on, I ended up volunteering regularly in refugee camps in Dunkirk in northern France. Used to cross over the border regularly on a Sunday just to be with them and hear their stories and connect with them. And that was awesome. And now today, I think that's manifested in my lives in how my ministry has become quite justice centered. I attend a youth detention center here in Washington State, where I visit many kids who have awful stories. And the way that I would just term it better, actually, they've been handed an awful set of cards. And praise God, there's one person to come and to visit them, just one. And it's such a privilege to sit down with these kids and hold space for them and declare with authority that Jesus loves them. That's just, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And following Dilys, I was moved to become a chaplain. And I went and finished the course, and it has only done good for me and humbled me. Definitely. So yeah, there's my walk so far. I still feel I'm at like chapter 1. That's where I feel I'm at. But yeah, that's me.
Jen.
Yeah, no, thank you, everyone. I'm like processing and very inspired by your stories and just thinking about my own. And I want to start with like the first time that I actually cried for injustice because I didn't realize that was something within me that needed to be wept. And it was when I was a part of a global health project with my school, our cohort, we went to the Philippines. And while we were in the Philippines, you know, they took us to the HIV clinic. They talked to us about how they're providing just sexual health for like the community. And then they ended up taking us to the community. And when we went into the community, it was like a grave site, a graveyard. And all of a sudden you just see women and children, babies, just coming out of the slum of this graveyard. And I was in complete shock because I had never seen anything like that in my life, and not even in the movies. And so as we were going into the grave site, I just saw the little girls, and the little girls, they clung to the men that were a part of our group, and they were doing dances, you know, like, and I just thought, I'm like, is this their life? And the one that impacted me the most was when a mother came up to me and she had a 6-month-old baby. And she told me, she's like, please take my baby with you. Like, do not have my baby stay here with me. And I just remember that experience thinking the only difference between me and this woman is that I was born in the United States.
Yeah.
There's no difference between me and her, and the love that she has for her child is in giving her up because she knew what kind of life she would have. So I maintained my composure for the family, for her. But when I got into the van, I wept for like a whole hour, and I could not let that out of my system until we came and we debriefed, and our leaders at the time, they spoke about the reason why we're in global health, the reason why we do health, equity, justice is because we want everyone to have the opportunity to a good life and good health. And so after that, like it really did change the trajectory of like my life. I, during the course of work that I've done, I always have stories in mind where it helps me during the hard times to remind myself why I'm a part of the work that I'm a part of. And so in public health, there's so many different stories and people that I've come across, starting with mostly with children. I started with the county here in San Bernardino, and part of my responsibility was to provide healthcare to make sure that they had access to healthcare. And then moving along, even with the pandemic, there was one man that I'll never forget. And he was an elderly man that lived in the outskirts of San Bernardino County. I think it was um, Needles or something. And he called. And this man, like it was during the time everything was shut down. And he called our facility and he asked, he's like, I'm alone. I'm lonely. I'm an elderly man and I need help. I feel like I'm about to die. And he stayed on the phone. And I remember the protocol was like, we got to end the calls in 10 minutes. Like 10, you cannot stay long with people. But I remembered at that time, I'm like, no, this man is crying. This man is alone. He's isolated. And the just thing for me to do is to forget that protocol and be
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the phone with however long I need to be with this man.
Yeah.
So I was on the phone until he regulated for like 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I remember that brought him so much hope. I remember he just needed someone to talk to. So
Right.
when I think about these communities and justice, it's like sometimes it's just talking to somebody, and that's how you provide love and justice. So it doesn't even have to be this big thing. It could just be, I care enough that you're alone and isolated, and I'm going to meet you there. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where, everything started and has still begins for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Nathan, you have to share your story because, like Chris, you are an OG to this advocacy and justice work. So tell us, like, what are some highlights on your background?
So, yeah, I grew up as a white guy in suburban, big town, small town, rural Australia, big town. I don't know what it was. And my first introduction, grew up as someone going to church every week, was encountering a faith that was practical in the world, and that was the kind of faith that really caught my imagination. And I can trace so many of the beginning points to a little Irish band called U2, which you might have heard of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so they prompted me towards reading Martin Luther King in high school, the work of Amnesty International, some of the things that they were campaigning for in the 80s and early 90s. And then I went to law school, was engaged with things like the work of Amnesty while doing that kind of thing. Spent time working in remote outback Australia, working with Indigenous communities and some of the real disparities that are, seeing some of those things there. And then getting involved as kind of as a journalist, as an editor and amateur journalist, really focusing on telling stories of people. And in that, having the privilege of stepping into other people's stories and under the veneer of journalism being able to ask some of the questions that you don't get to ask in normal conversation and polite society, because you're telling somebody a story, so you can just ask some of those blunt questions and get people to really tell you how they feel and to go deeper into people's experiences in some of those ways. So I've written books on justice. I've written books on Indigenous, a biography of an Indigenous pastor and his experience, written articles about the experiences of refugees, and so many other opportunities that I've had in that way, sort of in that semi-professional kind of way have also been involved. I had an experience like Jen and I consider it one of my conversion experiences of traveling in the developing world in Cambodia, encountering poverty, the aftermath of genocide, some of those real stories, and just being broken by it, and recognizing that the faith that I wanted to talk about had to have a meaningful response to that, or it wasn't worth much. And from that point, has spent a lot of time learning that faith, studying that from books, from actual doing degrees in those different directions to really come up with an understanding of faith that I think is actually meaningful and tangible and sustainable in a world of such injustice and brokenness. And that's, and then in various books that I've contributed to or been a part of, seeking to share that faith and to invite others into that faith. More recently, I was invited by an ADRA leader to go to Canberra, our national capital, in 2012 for lobbying. That was particularly focused on Australia's international aid contributions, part of the Millennium Development Goals, and some of the things that we're working on with MICA Australia and MICA International, and then have done that as a regular thing most years since 2012, regularly spending time with people who are leaders and activists and Christian Indigenous leaders, and then talking to our political leaders about, being a more just nation, and that we need to practice and pursue policies that really can make a difference in people's lives. And those things have become a highlight of my faith experience, because it's faith that is practical, it's faith that is lived out, and isn't just something where we sing nice songs together, as important and as valuable as that can be. But in the name of Jesus, step out into our community, step out into the world to seek to make other people's lives better. And, we've had our wins and we've had our losses in some of these lobbying directions, but it's been such a good learning experience, but also such an empowering and affirming thing for that the faith I believe in matters and really can make a difference in other people's lives, as it has in mine and as it has in so many people's lives in the world today and historically. And that's something that we can celebrate and champion.
Well, like I said, OG. I love to tell the story of how we got here. So I'm going to go first. The reason Just Love exists is because of that guy, Chris Blake. I blame him for all of it.
I'm prepared to blame him for lots of things.
So, Chris, do you want to tell your part of the story first, or do you want me to tell my part and then you fix it like a good editor?
Yeah. I can start first by editing what you just said. That is that as the Holy Spirit of God that was the incentivizing spirit.
I see what you did there. Yeah. I see what you did there, Chris.
It is a thing that we do when we get stuck in situations, is that our first thing can sometimes be to blame God.
And I do.
That's good.
And I'm grateful for that. Todd Leonard was a pastor here in Glendale. And, as I was listening to all of you, I thought of the worldwide nature of just the people on the screen here. Australia, Jamaica, Mauritius, and the country of California, too. But the Todd was in California, in Glendale, California, and he and I chatted about on a few occasions about, wouldn't it be nice if, what if, and part of that dreaming, that visioning was the feeling that many times we have that we are alone, that that the Elijah lament, I alone am here, when there's at least 7,000 who have not bent the knee to Baal. And and so we talked about that, and how we would like to create a community that was worldwide, and that would live out the very things that you just talked about, my friends. Those things that drive us to our knees and help us to rise again, because we see the injustice, and we lock arms with brothers and sisters and say, "Yeah, we're going to go forward, and we're going to do what we can to follow Jesus, no matter what, daring greatly," as Brene Brown says.
Yes.
First Teddy Roosevelt, I guess. But it started slowly, and Dilys was trying to throw me in the driver's seat of the bus, not under the bus. But Dilys, I used to teach critiquing film. There's what's called, usually it's between about anywhere from 13 to 18 minutes into a film, feature-length film, something called the inciting moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the inciting moment is a hinge point for the film, after which everything is changed because of something that has happened. Characters introduced, something. And Dilys Brooks is an inciting moment for Just Love Collective.
Wow.
Because when Dilys entered the script, that Enneagram 1
My Lord.
took on some flesh, and so we haven't been the same since, and I thank God for that.
That's the best intro I've ever heard anyone give.
That's a fair,
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you about how my friend just called my whole name. So I won't call his whole name because I do it all the time. And Chris, thank you for saying that the way you said it. The way I remember it, Chris kept calling me and saying, "I need you to jump on a call." And I was like, "Nehemiah, I'm building this wall and I can't come down."
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time when he reached out to me, I was finishing up my PhD. I was literally in the process of getting ready to defend. And I was like, "I can't talk to you till the end of February." This joker called me March 1. "Dilys, you need to get on the phone call." I said, "I cannot come down off this wall. I cannot talk to you until I finish my edits. End of March. This joker reached out in April. "Dilys, get on the phone." And I was like, "Fine, I'll get on the call." And I got on the call with him and Todd, and I can't remember if Trevin was on the call that time or who else was on that call. But I remembered listening, and I asked some questions, and then I didn't go back. And then Chris called me again. And by the time I got back on the call, I noticed that some of the questions that I had asked were answered, and there was a name for this group, and it was Just Love. And I had said to Chris, "Listen, I want to be, if I'm going to be a part of something, I want it to be something that's going to outlive us. I want it to be intergenerational. I want it to be intercultural." And he was like, "Yes, yes, like we're here for all of those things. Who do you know?" And I was like, "Okay, let's see if we can get into some good trouble together." And ironically, what God ended up reminding me as we got close to the end of that first year, as we were planning the summit, the Holy Spirit just gently reminded me, "You said you wanted to do this. In 2020, you wanted to do this. You just couldn't do it because you were in school. So stop your complaining and get to work." And so that's how I ended up here. Was a result of, as Chris rightfully said, the incentivizing work of the Spirit, inviting us to partner with the Spirit, and we haven't looked back.
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Who should I ask? Is it Nathan or Sam?
Okay, I tell you what I'll do. I'll do this because it's so strange. Me and Jen had a conversation just before we hit record. I'm gonna count to 3, and me and Jen are both gonna say exactly the same time. We haven't rehearsed this. Exactly the same time. Who is our genesis to Just Love Collective? You ready, Jen?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Dilys. Dilys strong-armed me. All I know is that I entered my first meeting and I strangely walked away with responsibilities before I had even accepted to say I was a part of this thing.
Yes.
I think the second call, Dilys, I remember I called you after the meeting to convince you how I don't think I should be part of this. And then I still walked away with more responsibilities. And now all I know is that I'm in too deep. And I couldn't get out even if I tried now. So, but you know, jokes aside, being a part of this collective has upgraded my call to ministry and made it more Christocentric than I've ever needed it to be. And I'm super grateful of being a part of, you know what? I'll say this, safe people.
Sanctuaries, human sanctuaries.
Yeah.
And I think I have the same answer as Jen and Sam. It's just there's an extra degree of separation. Because Dilys then got in touch with Moy Styles, who happens to be my church pastor and regular collaborator and co-conspirator in all sorts of goodness.
Yeah, goodness in the world.
That's right. And we have worked together in all sorts of ways. We've studied together. We over quite a period of time. And so Dilys reached out to Moy, and Moy then had lunch with me one time and said, there's this thing that I need you to be a part of as well.
That's what Dilys said to me. There's this thing.
And we're still trying to work out what this thing is.
There's an elevator pitch. There's this thing.
But, you know, as you've said, Sam, one of the real highlights is to work with some really remarkable folks and to be able to have that common passion, that common direction, common faith and hope, to actually want to make a difference in the world and in our church for the good of all. And that's a pretty powerful and important thing.
Yeah, Jen, do you want to just finish, talking about what I did do?
Yeah.
I know I didn't strong arm you.
No, actually, my experience was a little bit different. The algorithms worked on social media. So like a true millennial, I saw Just Love because of my interests, my passions. And I was scrolling one day and I saw Just Love and I clicked on it, and it happened to be like a month before the summit. And so I knew Dilys already because I was a student at Loma Linda, but I'm like, what is this about? Like, this is I read the mission, I read the purpose, and I was like, I think I need to see what's going on. So I registered, I went to the summit and loved everything about it. The speakers, the innovation, the community of people that were there, like the table talks about how to make things just in our community, the different topics that were expressed and led. So for me, that's after that, I'm like, I want to be more involved. I want to be more a part of this work. And since the only person I knew was Dilys, I went to her office. I sent her, I think, an email. I don't even know, like, Dilys, I just want to talk to you about Just Love. I was just there, and I'm not sure, where you're at, but would love to be a part of it. And that's why I'm here.
I have a couple of specific questions, and Chris, as the OG of this gathering, you've been involved in quite a number of other initiatives and things within the Adventist community. You've been a long-time contributor and supporter of Adventist Peace Fellowship, and you've been involved in, the Rainbow community and, the Adventists within that community. Why did we need a new thing, and what makes Just Love Collective different from some of these pre-existing things that are out there and that we are seeking to collaborate with and bring together?
Yeah. The summit is indicative of what sets JustLove Collective apart, because it's not predicated on just knowledge, disseminating knowledge. It's predicated on enabling people to take action, so that the notes that we take during our summit, and these wonderful talks and workshops and all sorts of active learning things that we did, the notes we take are not filed up on a shelf, as I'm pretty sure all of us have done, never to be seen again. That we are aiming toward practical impact in people's lives, and liberating impact, just the way Jesus aimed himself as he entered public ministry, to set the oppressed free. So I'm mentioning that because what sets us apart, I think, is that emphasis on action, and also the communication vehicles that we have. We have Pulse Digital Magazine. We have JustLove Notes, Substack. We have, help me out here, Dilys. We've got some social media.
Yeah, where we're inviting people to think and act.
Yep.
I think that's the main thing. We're not just saying, we're Adventists, and we have a tendency, I think, to do a lot of the intellectual lifting and the encouragement. What we're hoping that happens is that folks are inspired to act. And Nathan Brown, I think you helped us when you and I started talking with Chris about what we're doing. This idea of action creates hope is moving from the thinking to the let's do something. And you said, we don't have to start from scratch. Let's look and see who's doing something already. And that's where the collective part comes in. It's not just us as the group of folk who are dreaming and praying and planning. It's also partnering with other groups who are already doing this work, bringing their stories to the forefront of our particular communities, the spheres that we have influence in, to say, hey, as you said, Chris, we're not the only ones. And so if in your neck of the woods, you want to get involved in peace work, then holler at Adventist Peace Fellowship. If you want to know what's happening, check out the folks at Spectrum, see what they're writing about, what they're talking about. If you want to get into activism around particular issues of injustice, then take a look at our sister organization, Adventists for Social Justice. And there's so many more, the Conscience and Justice Council, that I just got exposed to in the last couple of years. And so, yeah, it's as you said, Nathan, it's new. Do we need a new thing? Yes and no. So we're not out here trying to do this by ourselves. What we're saying is, if we're doing this together, encouraging one another and highlighting what each other is doing in an intergenerational, intercultural way, then that's why we needed something new, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the existing groups had their certain core people they connected with, core demographics or geographies or what language groups or whatever, and age groups. We are very intentional about trying to connect more closely or more broadly, probably more correctly, with people across all those different groups. And if we can get some of those existing groups talking to each other, that's a pretty good start.
Yes,
because there are things that exist within our church that a lot of people don't know about. Adventist Peace Fellowship is a long-standing. They've been doing their thing for almost 25 years, but how many people know of them? And even if all we can do is give them a platform, or give them a boost in the impact they can have, then that's a pretty good thing. So I guess in this, as a wrapping up kind of question, and maybe we will need to later in the series come back and do another episode to talk about the other aspects of it, and we will of course be exploring other aspects of what we're talking about in the rest of the series. But how do you recommend that people engage with, get involved with? Why should they? And then how would we go about it as far as getting involved with Just Love and what it's trying to do?
Yeah, people can get engaged. Please get on our website. Sam, why don't you talk about some of that stuff? Okay.
I think we have various platforms that I'd like to think that we're getting, or at least got to a stage where I think there's something for everyone. Whether you want to come in as an observer who wants to silently support, because that's also support as well.
Yes.
Because when I first joined JustLove Collective, I liked working in the background because it's safer there. And then the more you hang around these guys, you start to come out of the background. But there's a space for that. There's a space for education. There's a space for learning. There's a space for growth. There's a space for just coming alongside to observe. We got our newsletter, the book circle, the resistance calls. All of that are platforms that we invite you to participate on an observatory level. But these platforms, I don't believe, are closed. Jen is an example of that. She pretty much kind of invited herself and said, I want in. And I think that's one of the amazing steps that I think is very welcomed in Just Love. Because if you want in, then there's stuff to do, from whether you're a techie and you want to take some of the tech stuff off my shoulder, please, we're looking for techies, or whether you want to actually participate by engaging in some of these very felt need discussions that are just moving the goalposts towards something more Christocentric, more justice centered, more God centered. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage you to, even if it is, hi, my name is, I want to be a part of this. Here I am. Even if it's just something as simple as that, because the work of justice is so broad. And yeah, so that would be my answer in terms of engagement. It does, on the very first level, come listen. And if you feel compelled to, reach out.
Jen, as someone who did that, can you, are we scary?
No, definitely not scary. No, I'm thinking about this because I feel like, yeah.
You're lying, Jen. We had a conversation before this. You're lying. Tell the truth.
The truth
I'm calling you out.
No, I'll be transparent. Yeah, with that conversation with Sam, I said, I'm like, I'm intimidated by you because I'm not a pastor. Like, I'm intimidated by the group because I felt like everybody were pastors, and I'm like, and I don't have my, degree in that or theology, and I have been like open and transparent about that. And Sam just gave a very beautiful perspective of like involvement and how we all have something to contribute, we all have something to offer, and that we don't have to have a master's in theology or a master's in justice work, that all you have to have is your heart and your passion and your love for service. And so I think for me, like as being a part of the group, I think it is just being open to growth as well. Like I've already grown so much with just being a part of the meetings. And I think Chris, Dilys, Nathan, Sam, because, I think for me, having an open mind in justice as well is so important because we're all fluid, we're all learning, we're all growing, but our heart is there. And so I think that open-mindedness is really important for this line of work, and to be a part of the collective, to remind yourself that mission and that purpose and ground yourself in that, and then just be a part, like just come, and we'll all grow and learn together.
I just want to quickly add to that, to just something that me and Jen were talking about. I want to propose that one of Just Love's weaknesses is that we have too much pastors, and we need people to balance. We need people who are plugged in and who don't have the same limitations, hang-ups, yeah, and the list goes on. We need a good balance of individuals, and sometimes it's sometimes pastors even need to be humbled.
Oh,
All the
my
time.
word. Whoa.
All the time.
Whoa, now we went off the rails. That was a call for engagement from people who are already engaged in their local communities. And all religion is local, just as all politics is local. And that's where hope and energy and peace and freedom and love take place, is in local communities with local people. And so what we're hoping is that all of you who are listening to this will recognize that following Jesus is fundamentally love in action. And that love is spread all across this globe, and actually well beyond this planet as well, is our belief. And it's my belief, actually, that righteousness by love is superior than righteousness by faith. It's not what we believe so much as how we love that matters ultimately. And so if you've got love for God and love for people and love for the planet and love for the universe, please be a part of Just Love.
You just said something that blew my mind. And in answer to the question, how can we be engaged? I realized to myself, if you can identify where you are already engaged in the work of justice and love, you are already a part of the collective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just asking you to come and join a wider group of people where we can be more organized in how we do it. Because we all shared stories at the beginning of this podcast on how the work of Just Love began way before the logo was formed.
Yeah.
And God just manifested that into this collective.
Mm-hmm.
And so welcome to the collective, whoever you are.
Yes.
Yes, if you're listening, you are part of it, whether you want to be or not. And but we invite you to engage more intentionally and directly with what we're doing, and to contribute and bring your story and your experience and your perspectives and insights and passions and enthusiasms and all of those things, because that is what a collective is. So thank you all for sharing with us. So Dilys, how could our listeners go further with some of the ideas and stories they've heard about in this episode?
We could begin with reading 2 recent books from participants in this conversation. Imagine Life is a book from Chris Blake that explores some of his stories, experiences, and reflections in the work of justice. And Nathan, tell us about your book, Practicing Justice.
Yes, I can do that. Practicing Justice was released last year, and it comes in 2 parts. The first is an overview, perhaps a systematic theology, of the big idea of justice and relationality across the Bible. And then the second part of the book is an exploration of the spiritual practices that can grow our faith, our compassion, and our resilience for the work of doing justice, with key insights drawn particularly from the civil rights movement in the United States in the 1960s. We'll put links to both these books in the show notes to this episode.
And please register now to join us for the second Just Love Summit, April 10th to 11th at La Sierra University in Riverside, California. Or you can join us online. Visit JustLoveCollective.org/summit to register today and to be part of this important event.
Thank you for joining us for episode 1 of the JustCoz podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this feed to get more episodes as they're released in coming weeks. We have so many good things to share with you. And be sure to let others know about this new podcast series as well.
To discover more about the Just Love Collective, visit our website, JustLoveCollective.org, and connect with us and all the other good things we're doing, including the Just Love Summit, our regular Pulse digital magazine, our fortnightly newsletter, Just Love Notes, the Just Love Book Circle, and other occasional events.
We'll be back soon with episode 2. Thank you for being part of the Just Love community.